Okay, so we got the new Unearthed Arcana 2022, the Cleric and Revised Species. Let's take a look at what changed here since the last one and since the 2014 Player's Handbook. Races are gone, now we call them species. We knew about the new system for creating a home base. That's going to be called the Bastion system, I think. We got encounter building, new and revised monsters coming in the future. Primary ability for a class, need to have a 13 there to multi-class. I think that's the same as before. Okay, now let's look at the Cleric. Primary ability is Wisdom, class group Priest. Note this here, prepared spells per spell level. It used to be called spell slots per spell level. Now the two things are the same, and a Cleric has fewer prepared spells. Usually it used to be their level plus their spellcasting modifier. So a first level Cleric could usually have 4 spells they could prepare. Now it's only 2, so that's a big change. Kind of goes under the radar a little bit too. Then we have the class features here. We have the big one, the Cleric subclass being 3rd level. That means that it's easier to jump into a Cleric and start playing them from first level, which is ironic because they're adding feats to first level characters, making it harder. Kind of going both ways on making it easier to jump in or not jump in. I do like having all the subclasses being at the same levels and having no class starting with a subclass, so I think that's actually a good thing. In their proficiencies, it now gives the recommended proficiencies, or you can choose from others, as opposed to the way the Cleric used to be in other classes as well. Choose 2 from in a list. They have simple weapons, no tools, light armor, medium armor, shields. Their starting equipment includes a chain shirt. It used to include chainmail, but now since none will have training in heavy armor, none would have the option for chainmail. Okay, the big change here, Channel Divinity going to first level is a first level feature. And you can use your proficiency bonus per long rest, so no recharging on a short rest, except we'll see that there's one thing that does that later. And now there's 2 different Channel of Divinities, Divine Spark, which you can use on a creature 30 feet away from you that you can see to either heal or inflict damage. And it's only radiant, so I think evil clerics, they should put necrotic or have some other choice there. Then Turn Undead is a big change here. Undead within 30 feet, that's the same. Or no, it used to be 60 feet. That's good. Let's go look. I think it used to be 60 feet. Turn Undead. No, 30 feet. Okay. But now they are dazed, and they don't have to flee, but if they do move, they have to end their move further from you. And it ends if you're incapacitated or you die. So dazed and ending and not having to move away, all new. And I like all that. Now, one thing you'll notice it doesn't have is any increase in or automatically slaying undead. Nothing there in the Turn Undead with that. So there's another feature we'll see in a second that adds damage to the turn, which will basically kill low CR undead. So it probably serves the same purpose. Okay, so prepared spells, again, a much shorter number of prepared spells, just 2 leveled spells. Then everything here is pretty much along that line. Okay, now second level. On second level, you gain the Holy Order, so you can become a Protector or a Scholar or a Thaumaturge. So Martial and Heavy Armor, Scholar, you have a couple more skills that you gain a modifier on equal to your Wisdom modifier. Thaumaturge gives you an extra 0 level spell, and you can change it. There's 0 extra level spell. You don't really prepare 0 level spells. I think it means you could cast an extra one. Oh, is that new? Okay, so prepare 3 0 level spells. So it looks like your cantrips are not set. You can change the cantrip every time you prepare your spells. That's a big change. Big change there. And then the Thaumaturge can gain more Channel Divinity with a short rest. Okay, 3rd level, you get your subclass. 5th level, you get your Smite Undead, where you add more damage to it. As many D8s as you have proficiency bonus, so definitely by the time you're 5th level, that's 3d8, so you'll be destroying, like, skeletons. And then as you gain levels, maybe you'll add zombies to that, shadows, etc. The damage is radiant. Then you have Blessed Strikes, which a lot of clerics got Blessed Strikes, depending on who they had as their deity or their domain. And that came around 8th level usually, so now that's around 7th level. This is different wording, until the start of your next turn. So it's not once on your turn, but it's when a creature takes damage from one of your spells or attacks. Interesting. So not once per your turn, so you could do this as a reaction if you hadn't used it on your turn with an attack, for example. Then Holy Order, you get to pick a second option from those Holy Order options. Divine Intervention. This is neat. They kind of clarified what it could do. The effect of any divine spell is appropriate. Okay, then it succeeds at 18th level. The recommended prepared spells. Then the Life Domain. So the Life Domain spells are a little different. We can see here, like at 9th level, you got Greater Restoration and Mask Cure Wounds instead of Mask Cure Wounds and Raise Dead. Then Disciple of Life. This is an interesting warning. Let's see here. Your healing spells are empowered by life itself, and the spell you cast with the spell slot restores hit points to a creature. That creature regains additional hit points on the turn you cast the spell. So this would preclude something like Good Berries, which weren't necessarily precluded before. So that's, I guess, how you had to word it to make that happen. Then we have Preserve Life used to start at 2nd level. Now it's all the way up at 6th level. And it doesn't do a whole lot more. It's doing the same amount. Of course, by the time you're 6th level, you're healing more. But this kind of is a little lackluster, I've found in games. Plus, having to figure out, what half of everyone's maximum hit points are, that's annoying. So I would like to see a modification here in a little bit, make it a little bit more powerful. Maybe not worry about the max half hit points. Blessed Healer on the turn you cast the spell again. So more healing on the turn you cast the spell. And the Supreme Healing, which you normally didn't get till 17th level, you now have at 14th level. All right, now we're getting into species. So Ardling, let's look at what they had for Ardlings before. We'll be looking at the character origins here. And Ardlings used to have Angelic Flight, and that's gone. Now they have Animal Ancestry. They had before Celestial Legacies, so they have these ancestries: climbers, flyers, racers, swimmers. And that gives a special power that they have. They have a little bit of divine magic and keen senses. One of them gets resistance to cold damage, the swimmer does, and none of the others do. So I would try and balance that out because that's pretty strong resistance compared to what the other Ardlings get. Okay, Dragonborn. Big change here in Dragonborn. I thought the Dragonborn from before were like too homogenized, with their breath weapon being the same no matter what, and always a dex save. Well, the thing I missed here that's big is that it was an action, which is what the Player's Handbook Dragonborn has. But the Tasha's Dragonborn, it was, as it is now here, when you take the attack action on your turn, replace one of your attacks with the breath. And now they have the 15-foot cone or the 30-foot line. So you choose. It's not like lightning is always a line. I don't know if I like that or not, but at least it opens up a little more options. Always a dex save, so none of these are con saves. Again, don't like that. I'd like to see the con save and the breath weapon type back on the chart there to really differentiate the damage types. And then it used to be D10 plus your level. Now it's multiple D10s based on your level. And then they added the Draconic Flight at 5th level. I kind of like the idea that you can have it as power, but I don't like how it's like, you sprout spectral wings. We'll see. Okay, Goliath. Goliath, second race with 35-foot movement so far in the playtest. The other one is a wood elf. Then the giant ancestry reminds me a lot of kind of a cross between a rune knight and a Goliath. Of course, the stone's endurance is the same as before, but now instead you can pick all these other options thematically aligned with other types of giants. And the one that looks a little out of place here is the Hills Tumble, the hill giant, where you just automatically knock someone prone if you hit them. And then you have a large form, which is like the Rune Knight's Giant's Might a little bit. Although it's only once per long rest, so I would recommend changing that to proficiency bonuses times per long rest. Powerful build, advantage grappled. Okay, now we're into feats, and we see the ability score improvement feat appear, prerequisite being 4th level. And then in the glossary, the changelog lists what changed. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is the aid spell. Big nerf on the aid spells. Now it's temporary hit points. Instead of increasing your max and your current by 5, it's now temporary. So you used to be able to, with an aid spell, raise people who are unconscious back into the fight. Now that's gone. They did counteract it a little bit by, instead of it used to be 3 characters. Let's look at the aid spell. Choose up to 3 creatures. Now you get to choose 6 creatures. So with one spell slot, you can get your whole party, pretty much. So that's aid. Next change is the attack action, equipping weapons. This word here used to be, what did that used to be? Attack. After any attack. Now it says after each attack. So I guess each mean any, I would thought you could do it multiple times, but now it's pretty clear you can do it multiple times. So that's good. Next change is Banishment. Let's look at the Banishment spell. So here, range 60 feet, that's been reduced to 30 feet. Same component. Target can willingly fail to save, I think is new. Although I think that used to be just an overall rule. This is the new part. At the end of each of its turns, the target can repeat the save. So banishments aren't going to last 10 rounds, that's for sure. Unless you're really, maxed out on your DC and you got someone with a no charisma save. Then we have the spell lasts on the target for a minute, and the target's aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend, they don't return. It used to be they would not return if they were native to the other plane that you sent them to. So now this is a little troublesome though, because I think some characters can be Fae. I think that's a possibility, so that might need to be fixed for those characters that can be Fae or Fiends. Maybe not in the playtest. Maybe they've already fixed that in playtest since only the current classes. Okay, so that's Banishment, big nerf in Banishment, which it needed. Day's condition is new. You can move or take one action on your turn. This works with turning, and it can work with any number of other things now. Then we have the Grappled condition. The Grappler is only slowed when it moves now. That's just kind of a clarification of what that used to say. Did it say in the previous playtest? In the Expert Classes playtest, Grappled suffers a slowed condition while moving. Can carry or drag you when it moves, but the Grappler suffers a slowed condition while moving. Kind of the same thing. They just kind of clarified the wording on there a little bit. Escape used to say if something moves you outside the grapple's range without using your speed, it moves you from the grapple's range without using your speed, it's gone. Guidance spell, change here from the previous playtest. So it's still a reaction, but now it's down to 10 feet. It used to be 30 feet in the previous playtest. And there was some extra wording there at the end that said you could only do it once on a creature per long rest. Now that's gone. So you could guidance spell people forever. The same person over and over if you need to. Heroic Inspiration, the same. Influence, big changes on influence. And that's a really beefy, long thing. See if I can kind of catch them. So successful charisma check is usually necessary, is what attitude change there is. And if we looked at influence before, it said creatures doesn't necessarily often necessary. So small wording change there. Friendly. Friendly creature often helps happily with the charisma check succeeding automatically. Just said it just didn't even talk about the charisma check. So you might have been tempted to roll, and if you got a 1, you'd say, oh, they're not friendly, but this says no matter what, they're friendly. Okay. And then hostile. You did succeed on 1 or more charisma checks. The only wording change there is it says to say challenging charisma checks, but didn't really define what challenging charisma checks were. Interaction. So now the DM can temporarily shift a hostile creature to indifferent or indifferent to friendly, or vice versa. And then the ability check is a charisma check. Advantage if the creature is friendly, disadvantage if the creature is hostile. So this is just kind of cleaning up a little bit the interaction wording that it had previously. Then setting the DC. So they used to have DCs at 10 and 20 with different levels of response. Now it's like one roll to get them to do one thing. The DC is 15, or if their intelligence is higher than that, their intelligence score. And of course, it's not mind control, never was. And of course, hostile creatures can just ignore it. And new item here is you have to wait 24 hours to try again. I suppose in the past it was just try until you made it. Okay, jump action actually hasn't been updated. Still got that half height, super high jump. Every commoner can jump 10 feet up into the air. They clarified you have to have a light weapon in each hand to use the extra attack with the light weapon property. Rest benefits used to have a hit point to benefit from rest. Now you have to have a hit point to start a rest. Rest here. Is it even in? There it is. Yeah. Must have at least one hit point to start a rest against benefits. Now you have to have it to even start it. Exhaustion getting reduced is new. Having to wait 16 hours to start another one versus you can do one per 24-hour period. And casting a spell interrupts a rest, but you can resume a rest. So that's all new. Magic action. When you use a feature, so this is now like the Cleric's turning, is now a magic action. So they added that. That's new. Special speeds, that hasn't changed. You still have to choose each time. Prayer of Healing. So that's all new. Okay, so it's an abjuration spell, which is new, as with all the healing spells. Let's look at Prayer of Healing there we go. Okay, so we're looking at the number of willing creatures used to be 6, and now it's only your spellcasting ability modifier. So that's down. I mean, it'll only be 6 when you're really high level. They have to remain within range the whole time. Before it's just they had to be there at the end. And they get 2d8 hit points. They used to be 2d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. And you can only be affected once per long rest. So that's not in there at all. Beast Pack, all new there. Resistance is a new one. Okay, so resistance, very rarely did I see resistance ever used. So this might be a useful change. Now it's a reaction within 10 feet like guidance was. And once you fail a save, you can give them a d4 to maybe make it. Now, the biggest nerf of all, spiritual weapon, all exactly the same, except requires concentration. So that's a huge reduction in the power of a lot of clerics that I've seen in play. So hopefully they'll balance that by making clerics overall better. We'll see how that goes. There's going to be a lot of unhappy clerics for that concentration edition. Truesight, I read Truesight, and it seems to read word for word the same as a regular Truesight in the Monster Manual. And that's it. So Let me know in the comments what you think of all these changes, which ones you like and don't like. I'll post them individually on Twitter as well. And I'll see if I can do a roundtable, maybe with Dave and some others here soon. Thank you for watching.